Hey friends, Heath Home here, and welcome back to another Sunday Fun Day live stream. Today I'm going to be showing you a fun and interactive workflow with Ableton Live where we can turn our loop into an arrangement by performing and arranging live. Kind of using Ableton Live for its uniqueness, what it brings to the table as a live performing software. So as we go, I'll explain what I'm doing along the way. So whether you're completely new to music production and Ableton Live, or you're a seasoned pro, I'm sure there will be some key takeaways for everyone in today's stream. In the end, the goal is to inspire you to boot up Ableton and go and make some music. Feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them. And so without further ado, let's dive into today's stream. So first up, I think we'll just do a bit of a walk through of what we have here in the session view. Again, today's stream, a few moving parts, extra camera to sort of look at the MIDI controller, so you can kind of see what's going on there. So as I said, let's do a little bit of a walkthrough, a recap. This is a project that I've now shown in 2 previous streams where first of all, I kind of came up with the idea from scratch. And then in a second stream, which was last week, I went through and sort of did some interesting mapping. Again, I brought the MIDI controller into that, and I did a lot of setting up of these racks that you can see down the bottom here, and essentially mapped many of the devices or effects that are on the different instrument tracks. To a master rack, let's say, lots of macros, and then I was able to go through and randomize these macros and create snapshots or macro variations as they're called, and also able to do that with the MIDI controller as all of that is connected. So it was a great way to hopefully show you how you can kind of take some tracks, instruments and ideas and kind of evolve them, make them go somewhere that they didn't. It can give you variations for each of those tracks that you might not currently have. You might just have one loop, one MIDI clip. This can open doors in that area. So that's what's going on. Well, that's what we did in last week's live stream. Now we're going to bring it all together a bit, and as I said, use Ableton Live as the software that it is uniquely and very good at doing, which is live, working live with it with a MIDI controller. And so instead of copying, pasting this idea over into the arrangement view and arranging it, we're going to use our MIDI controller, make some scenes and kind of jam out, do a bit of live performing with the track. So let's have a listen to what we've got here. So if I play scene 1 at the moment, we've got this. Scene 2 at the moment. Is a small variation of scene 1, just giving us a little bit of extra energy in there. And already there are some clip changes wherever you see a number 2 in the MIDI clip or the audio clip potentially, there's something that I've altered in there to give myself a variation when I go from that scene 1 to scene 2. So what else have we got going on in this little sort of set at this point in time? Let's maybe start with over here on the master track. I've literally just created 4 scenes here, and I've named them and colored them. And the idea is we're going to kind of come up with 4 of those scenes. Before we start recording today over into the arrangement, we're going to make ourselves a verse, chorus, bridge and break. And by all means, as I may have shown in a previous video, we can make more scenes than just 4. I'm going to use 4 as my sort of starting point, but you could absolutely have another scene, and that could be something else. So we could also do a scene here, create a scene that could be the intro, right? We could also duplicate that and make another scene, rename that, and that could be the outro. So you can make a lot more scenes than just 4. You can have 8 So we could do like 8 scenes, we can have 6, how many you feel you need and how much you want to connect what you're going to do here in the session view to what the outcome is in the arrangement. In my case, as I said, I'm going to simplify it for today, sort of show you how we can work with just 4 scenes. So that's what's going on over here. And let's say verse is going to be sort of medium energy, the chorus is going to be peak maximum kind of energy, the bridge is going to be something we've never heard before in this kind of sequence of clips, and then the break is going to be a breakdown, and a breakdown of energy, so something we can place in areas where we want to have a breakdown. What else is going on? Well, on the main track here, we've got something interesting going on, and that is that I've created this rack of FX, and essentially I've labeled it Master FX, and inside of this rack are a bunch of audio effects. There's EQ8s doing low pass filtering, high pass filtering, there's a spectral resonator, chorus ensemble, delay, hybrid reverb, echo, and another EQ, but in this case the EQ3. Now this master effects rack is great to kind of build something like this that you can put on your master track when you're performing. This would be perfect for a live set on the master track, or in this case we're going to use those effects potentially to do something global across the whole track while it's playing rather than individual tracks. This is going to be, as I said, affecting the master signal. So what's kind of interesting here with the workflow is, first of all, this rack that I've built there. Perhaps if you would like, drop me a comment, let me know if you'd like me to show you how I built that rack. I could build one from scratch and we could go through how it's all mapped up. I mean, if you look across here, if we click mapping and open up browser, you can see there's a fair bit going on in there. So not only the order of the effects, mapping them to the macros, but then also the minimum and max values also, so they do exactly what we want each macro knob here to do. So the next thing that's important to notice here is that effects rack is on the master track, but we've got kind of like, essentially on my MIDI controller, I've got 8 tracks, and those 8 tracks are from the Vox here to the kick. They're kind of taken up already. All the faders, all of the buttons and the knobs are currently all kind of taken up by those 8 tracks. So I don't really have a spare fader. Obviously, if I had a bigger MIDI controller that had 16 faders and 16, macros and things like that, I could obviously continue mapping, and I could have, instead of the effects, those master effects being on the master track, they could be on their own separate track, a little bit closer to all of these devices here. So I hope that makes a bit of sense. I mean, I do have a push and I do have other MIDI controller options, but why I like the launch control for what we're doing is that I've got these volume faders, and I can, adjust my mix levels that way, as well as interact with the macros, which is a bit different to the push. Push is good for triggering the scenes and the clips, but perhaps not as easy to adjust volumes and tweak macros and things. So I like the Novation Launch Control XL for this. So yes, that's the point there. So the Master Effects rack, what is clever, or what is going on here that makes this interesting, I think more interesting, is how I'm going to use it today so that I can kind of use this MIDI controller and get across to the Master Effects, and then have the bottom row of my macros in the MIDI controller controlling this effects rack. So what we've got in our toolbox in Ableton Live is a device that comes from Max for Live. So let's open up the browser and let's search with Command F up the top here for map 8. So let's have a search for it. Okay, and we'll find it here. And I'll just do a right click on it as well, so that I can say show in places, so you can kind of see what it comes with. And it's inside the Max for Live Essential Packs, which most of us should have if we're working with Ableton Live. And you can navigate your way to the audio effect rack, or control devices, should I say, and there it is, map 8.amxd. And if I drag one over and drop it on this track behind the one that's already here, what's very interesting about this device, and this is why I've got it here, is it doesn't really matter where this is, we can map things to it. And that's the key thing to the workflow here. So the map 8 essentially, if we want to map anything to it, we can come over here, click map, and you'll see it's blinking, and we can now go anywhere in the project and take over that knob. And as you can see, I'm not with the map 8 on the tom track where the C send is. I'm over here on this effect track with the map 8, but now I'm able to control that send. So it's really, really quite powerful because the map 8 can live more or less wherever you want it to live, and you can go and map the 8 macros that it has. And guess what? I mean, obviously, if we want more macros, we could also duplicate it, put these two in a rack, right? And then we could open ourselves up to 16 macros, let's say, right? So we could get kind of quite smart with it if we need more macros, but as default, it's a map 8 macros. That's how it sort of starts out. So what I've gone and done with the map 8 that I've got here on this audio track that says effects, all it's doing is hosting this map 8. And the map 8, I've gone and mapped all of these 8 mapping points, the 8 macros, to everything that's on my Master Effects device, right? So I've now got, alongside my 8 instrument tracks, this effects track, which is hosting the map 8, and I can now, let's do it, navigate my way with my MIDI controller till I see track 10. Let's call the focus up on it, and as you can see, I've sort of brought that track into focus on my MIDI controller down here, and now all of these bottom row control all of the global FX that are sitting on the master track. That's what's amazing about map 8. It's not on the master track map 8. It's sitting here. It's right next to all my 8 instrument tracks, so I can navigate to easily. And now I've got this global control. So let's have a quick jam with that. So if we play scene 1. Right, so pretty cool. I've got this kind of, like, as I said, a global rack that I can interact with what's on the master track, so it's going to affect everything going through. But I still, at the same time as I have this master effects rack to the map 8 on this effects track that I can navigate with my MIDI controller to take it over with the bottom macros. Pretty happy about that. I can also navigate across through my project, get myself back to the normal workflow, bring each track into focus along here. So if I'm on the tom track, for example, let's again launch our music. I can use all of my regular send and returns on this particular track, so we can have some delay. Or we can use the reverb return. Or we can navigate our way to the spectral return that I've got. Spectral resonator. Okay, we'll navigate back to the reverb. So all of these send and returns and the devices down the bottom also, whatever's mapped there, will also work. Just undo what I just did there. They'll also work in the same way if we wish to control all the individual devices. So I've still got that workflow plus this effects track now. So I'm just going to unsolo that. So I'm I just wanted to sort of walk you through what's going on in the background here. Something I want to set up before I start recording in the arrangement view. I had a think about this. It sort of came to me as I was going along. Hi, Estelle. How you doing? I hope I pronounced your name wrong. Thank you for your comment in the chat. Hopefully, while you're there, if you're still there, the microphone levels and the music levels sound good. I hope that everything's thumbs up on that side. If you are still there, please let me know. All right, so what are we doing here? Well, so we've got this map 8 on this effects track. What I'm going to do actually is add an audio track to the right of it. And I'm going to get this audio track, this brand new one here, to listen. Let's change it to audio from resampling. And we're going to put it to in, and we're going to turn it off down here. So essentially, we'll also arm it. But essentially what that track is going to do, it's going to, whenever you select resampling as audio from, you're re-listening to the master track, right? So resampling from this list here is whatever is going through the master track is going to end up being recorded in here. So that would be one option. I'm going to actually try, let's say, the effects track just coming in here, and we'll see what happens. But the idea is, what I'm actually looking for is the output of this track to see if I can kind of record it into an audio track. So let's maybe have a trial run of it and see if that is, I'm going to get the result that I'm hoping for. If not, I'll try another idea. Yeah, I have a feeling that my instincts were probably right the first time around, so I see there's no input signal coming through there. So I might have to figure out quite a complicated routing here, but I'm just going to try resampling then. This will definitely be correct, but it obviously will also record not only effects rack but everything else. So there will be a recording here now, but it's whether it's exactly what I'm looking for is the question that I'm not sure I have the answer to yet. But I can certainly go back over the recording once it's done and for sure look for some nice kind of fun bits that could happen in here. So let's try now with this setup. So as you can see, there's now an input coming in here, which is correct. Okay, that's enough just to have a test run, and let's have a look. So I didn't global record it. Did I actually think? Oh, that was a shame. I didn't actually record that, so I'm going to do another quick run of that. Sorry about that, my bad. It happens sometimes in real time, so let's just reset that. Helps when you push record. Note to myself on that one. All right, so let's try this again. Let's go for stop all clips, arm that. Hopefully now we'll see a clip start here. That's great. All right, let's try again. again, that should give us enough just to check that's working. And yeah, now we have all of this sort of goodness going in here. And the idea behind that is when we take that over to just dragging it over to a new audio track to the right. Let me undo that. I'll just create a new audio track there and I'll drag the clip to it. And we'll just turn that one off for a second. And now if we just solo this track, we'll have everything, as I said, that's going into the master, but we will have some sections like probably here where I've used those effects, and that could make a really nice transition. So we might slice that out of there and put it exactly like this on an audio track. We could reverse it. Let's try that. You know, so it's worth recording that so that we can go back like that and look for some really interesting potential parts for our songs. So I just thought to share that with you. That was the idea behind what I was thinking here. So I'm going to do that workflow. I'm definitely going to make sure that I record also into this audio track what's going on when I use those global effects, right? So we're almost good to go here, I think. Let's get ourselves across to, again, back to track 1. So these 8 are my workflow of my individual tracks. And let's now build ourselves some verse, chorus, bridge, and break, right? So let's say that we kick everything in on the main track here, or what we can do is, let's say we mute all of the tracks down here. And also I've kind of got this meld synth, which is outside of my 8. So again, I kind of would have to navigate one slot over to take that out. Not really a big problem, but as I said, if you're using a couple of MIDI controllers, then obviously you can grab yourself more faders, more macros and things like that. Brian KM, awesome to see you in here. It's late in Oz, but saw the man Heath home streaming, so bed can wait for now. Awesome, great to see you there, mate. I hope you're doing very, very well. And as you can see, I've actually got a little bit of MIDI controller in the frame today, so hopefully maybe some inspiration ideas there. All right, so where I was there is taking out all of my first eight, let's say 9 tracks in this case. And I want to build out a couple of these different scenes from that. So I'm going to launch play on what is in scene 1 now. And I'm just going to think like I might bring in, I would say, and again, I'm just going to make sure I'm all the way over to the left. I'm going to bring in the vocals.
A couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things.
So that might be part of the intro.
My wife, forgetting my son's birthday.
Or the verse, or the bridge, or the break. I'm going to start with the verse, so I want sort of, as I said, medium energy, not full energy in this particular scene. I don't perhaps want the breaks, but I'm going to have the shaker, yes.
Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's
And I'd like the tom, I think.
And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And
I also think I'd like the meld, so I'm going to pop over and grab that.
my son's birthday. And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things.
Yes, Brian, we got to love a MIDI controller sometimes.
And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday.
So that for me, I think would be my idea for the verse scene. And what we can do in Ableton is when we have this kind of idea of what we'd like to have in that scene, which is the current clips that I've got playing that are lit up at the bottom here. So what we might do is actually just stop the others, just so we know that they're not going to be included. Yeah, and I did have the bass out, right? So I didn't add anything in there. Then we can just basically say that they're the clips that are playing. They're the part of this first scene I'm going to build. I'm going to right click over on the master track here, and I'm just going to say, please capture and insert those clips together and make us a new scene. There they all are. So we can bring that down, and if we like, in my case, I'm just going to, as I already kind of previously did it, I'm just going to drag those down into the verse scene, right? That's what I've created there. So now if I click verse, we launch into that, right? So the chorus scene is likely to be this combination with now some of our other elements. So again, we can now kind of go over here and let's bring these tracks, switch them on. Let's have the breaks. So as you can see, it's very easy to make like more scenes than just this 4, right? So I could very easily say, okay, that's amazing. I like that combination of clips. Let's say capture and insert, and directly below we've just created that scene, right? So it's very easy to keep going here. So we could call this, you know, verse 2 if we like. All right, now we could bring in the bass. I think I'm going to go and do my chorus scene now, which would have the bass in absolutely and the open hi-hat. And I'd also bring in this vocal. So let's say we are happy with that again. So we're going to click on where verse 2 is, say let's capture and insert that. And again, I'm going to do what I did just a moment ago, which is going to copy all of that. Just going to drag that down into the chorus that I've already labeled up. Let's give this verse 2 a color. It's feeling a bit lonely out there without its own color, right? So you can see hopefully how simple it is here to kind of like capture and insert and build scenes from that original loop that I had up there. I've also got a second version of that original loop up here. I think that would make, for sure, potentially the bridge. So in this case, I'm going to use another workflow. I'm just going to select all those clips like that, hold down Shift, quite get that right. Let's try that. There we go. Hold down Alt on my keyboard and just bring those all down into the bridge scene there. And then for the break scene, let's have a look at that. Let's just have a quick playthrough of what we've got so far. I also believe I had a vocal in this at some point. So yeah, so I'm going to put that into that verse. Might be nice to take the vocal out there, so I might leave that out rather than copying it down there as well. So what I'd actually like to do is I'm going to make another decision. This is all in real time here, so a little bit on the fly. I'm going to call that chorus 2, what I just had as the break, the bridge, should I say. And I'm going to do a new bridge because I'm going to bring the energy out a little bit. So I quite like the first chorus going to another chorus. So we've got a build from the chorus to the next chorus. And then the bridge, quite like to do a few things here. So I'm going to take out the kick drum track, and I do have a completely different kick pattern. It's got number 2 on it from my original kind of ideas. So I'm going to pop that into there. We'll have a listen to what that does in a moment. And I'm going to probably remove a bit of energy from this bridge scene here. So let's say the open hi-hat out. And again, we've also got 3 changes in these different synth clips in the MIDI themselves. So again, we could also make sure that we're using all of those. So probably what I should have done there is note to myself is obviously have different colors in these 2. So we'll Just make sure we'll do that now, and then we'll just check what we've got. Original, we can see where that is. This one is a loop between bar 7 and 9. So let's have a look in our sequence. So there it is there. There it is there. There it is there. So that's great. We now know that. So we haven't used yet this one. So that says to me, let's bring that down and drop that into the bridge scene there, right? Hopefully you can follow what I'm doing there. Let's maybe try the breaks out as well. That's quite nice. So we've got something completely brand new there. It's almost the break scene as well. So let's do a break scene now. But what we've got at the moment is this move, kind of somewhere where we're starting out our idea. Progressing the idea. Continue developing it. Again, I might actually shift that down to the break scene, and because I think that makes actually the better break. And I'm going to take out the broken kick pattern, which is what kind of changes up the rhythm a lot, is this kick pattern here. So I'm going to go back to my 4/4 kick for the bridge. Let's try again with, let's maybe have the bass in there so we can just activate that again. Right, so now if we're jamming around with these, which is kind of the idea, we've got a little bit of a kind of roadmap, and as you saw, it wasn't too difficult in the end to come up with newer scenes. Yes, there was, in the other two live streams where I've been working on this track previously, there was work going on where, for example, I have my 4 on the 4 kick with a ghost note, and then I have a broken kick beat here. So I've been planning, right, to have these options since day one. And so here's a bass line with some pitch changes compared to clip 1, which is just pedaling on the same note. The tom pattern has just 2 notes. In the second clip, it's got a ghost note. The break beats have differences in the envelope over here. So I'll definitely put in the end card of today's video the previous streams. You can go back and kind of watch how we arrived to what we've got. It's not happened in thin air. There's, you know, been thinking and work going on, but as you can see, how hopefully how useful it is at this point in time. And so if I keep going across the shaker, it's got this pattern sort of hovering around the offbeats, and then we've got a 16th shaker, so it speeds up, it gets a faster shaker pattern. We've got an open hat just on the offbeats, and then we've got, again, a whole new pattern with some extra fills and things. So these are the sort of things you want to be thinking about day one, day two, getting some evolution to what you have. So you've already got things up your sleeve. Hey, I can move from this, I can go up in energy or break it down. And that's essentially what a song arrangement is. It's kind of like, you know, where we strip down something, break it down or build it up. So if we've got a scene that is our peak loop, our main sort of heart of our song, then our ideas around it are going to be other scenes, other sections of the song that kind of build tension and release and build up to that and break that down. So again, if we looked at the acid synth here, that has 3 sequence patterns. So I recorded again in the original stream, it's a really big long sequence take, and then I kind of cherry picked my favorite sections of it, and I've ended up with 3 different loop sections that all sound different. Great. So they can all be in different parts of the song arrangement. Same with the vocals, there's a little bit of a loop early on in the vocal track, and then there's another one later taking on a different section of the vocals. The meld, bit of a naughty boy. I've done a similar thing to the acid synth. I know these are two different clips. I've not put the number in there, unfortunately. So again, I need to fix that. And you can either number them or color them, but get into good hygiene, good habits, you know. So that would mean that I'd understand, okay, something's going on. Well, what is going on? So the first clip is just this simple sequence. And the second clip is the sequence duplicated, but there's a rhythm shift. So if we look carefully where these notes happen in the sequence, they've been moved rhythmically to sound different in the second 4 bars. So that's what's going on there. So again, I should really have a 2 or a different color. So really good habits to get into there. Brian KM, man, your sound design has so much. Can't quite read the last bit. It's kind of got in the way. The screen is in the way, but definitely. Sorry, as I said, I can't quite see what the last bit of the wording is there. It's kind of blocked. Try scrolling up or down, but no, I can't quite view it. But anyway, I think I get your point there. So looking back here, where have we used 2 yet? That was not clear because I haven't labeled it. I'm guessing we haven't. So we can see lots of clip 1 going down here. Clip 2. Well, there it is. So it did come in, and it is in where? Chorus 2. Okay, so let's switch that so we know that's 2, but I'd actually like that in the bridge, and I think I will duplicate down the 1 into the chorus 2. Let's see, but I'd quite like the bridge to have that brand new pattern, because again, that's kind of something we haven't had happen before, and that's more or less the idea with the bridge, is to kind of like come up with something we mightn't happen before. So let's have a bit of a jam now, and then I think we can definitely get this into the arrangement view and start working on it over there. So let's have a little bit of a jam through, and I'm going to mess around a little bit with everything as well. So let's bring all our levels down as well. And there's one last MIDI mapping going on with that, by the way, with these volume faders. Let's take a quick look at that. So I'll just go Command M into MIDI map modes, pop over to the browser here. And this is something I really like to do with these kind of MIDI controllers that have faders. You'll notice that the max volume of the fader is 0 dB. This isn't default. It would have defaulted to 6 dB, so it can be pushed over 0. And I think a really good idea with your MIDI controllers is when you do this mapping to go into the MIDI mapping area here and set the max value to 0. That means that when I'm getting excited, jamming away, and I bring up one of these faders, my kick peaks at 0, it will not go over that. And that's, for me, like really, really important. What else am I going to do? Well, actually, let's do something here. Let's move all of these scenes up to the very top, and then let's put a break, insert just a blank scene or a couple underneath that, just to give ourselves a bit of room. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into keyboard mapping mode, and I'm going to set all of these scenes to corresponding numbers on the keyboard. Oh, let's do that one again. And then we could test that out. So we come out of keyboard mode, and that gives us, basically, I don't have to go too deep diving on my Launch Control XL, because I should be able to just, you know, launch that over here, which is great. Okay, now volume wise, we're all down at the bottom at the moment. So just let me get over to the meld and we'll bring that down as well. So that's missing from the controller, so I'm just going to do that manually for now. All right, so 1 is working great. That's launching that scene. Awesome. Now we can kind of bring out whatever's in that scene.
Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday.
So let's bring the meld up.
A couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday.
Let's go to verse 2.
A couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of
I'm just going to balance my mix levels a little bit while I'm doing this. So we can see the meld is over 6 because it's not actually mapped properly. We don't want it to be peaking over 0 dB. So we can fix that in a moment. Better. The kick is the only one I'm going to bring up to 0 and kind of have it working at that level by default. Shaker could also be pretty much. Okay, let's bring in scene 3. Bring up our bass and open hi-hat. This is just a bit of a test run. We're just walking through it all again, just making sure we're happy with the kind of flow, the roadmap, so to speak. Nice, I'm going to really enjoy going into that break. So I could jump now from the break back up to verse 2. I could go from verse 2 to the chorus 2. Can come over to my MIDI controller and take out both the hats at the same time. But importantly, I need to be over to the left a bit. So that's a good reason for sort of simplifying also your kind of workflow and make sure you can navigate around your set easily enough. The tricky part for me is from here to here is where I'm working with my faders and macros to those instruments. The meld was an extra one I've added, so I can navigate to it and give it a fader and assign it here, but I then lose, let's say, the kick if I go to track 9. So I hope that makes sense. I'm okay, I can live with that. And also if I want to view track 10, like where my map 8 is, then I need to sort of be able to navigate across to there and put that into focus where it is now, and then we'd be able to see all of our global effects on our map 8 device. And hopefully, Brian, as I know you're into mapping and all that kind of thing, perhaps you saw, or if not, you'll be able to recap this if you're still there and check out the map 8 device and what I've got going on with that. That it's actually this master effects rack that's living on the main master track that is actually mapped over here so that I can have it next to those 8-9 tracks and play around with all the global effects here. So I'm not actually touching the master track to do it. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm really happy with this map. I think everything works. So now, drum roll, it's time to have a bit of a go at recording this into the arrangement view, playing around with all the different parts and seeing how we get on. And there is no right or wrong answer. It's all very subjective. Hopefully it sounds good. But we don't have any problems, like we're not doing anything destructive. So anything that happens during this live recording, automation or, you know, triggering a clip or something like that, and we don't like it, we're just going to simply edit that. But the concept behind this is instead of just copying and pasting all that across and then dragging it out, we're getting involved. We're DJing, we're performing, we're sort of, even if it's just one macro we're moving, we're sort of getting into the track in ways we're not when we're copy and paste. And I can't stress that enough. That's the reason for doing this. It's for taking advantage of Ableton and some of the tools and workflows it offers us. Now, you haven't used Logic for some time, but I think some of those DAWs like Logic are now offering some of this kind of loop scene, perhaps workflow. They didn't previously, right? This is Ableton's wheelhouse, and Bitwig, let's say, will also allow you to do that, as it obviously has its very strong ties to Ableton, being designed by guys that work for Ableton and then went over and created a new software company. So we are going to hit the big global stop button, check out the arrangement view, make sure we've got no hidden surprises in there that's going to affect our recording. We don't want to be jamming away for, 5, 6, 7 minutes and find that we did this amazing take and nothing happened in here to do with it. We don't want that. I've got my little workflow here of this audio track listening to the master track, and it's just going to record that. And again, we can also do that elsewhere. So if we want an audio recording of the acid synth track, could be a really nice idea. We can put an audio track next door to it, or even we don't have to, this is the clever thing, we don't actually need it next door, so it's going to get in the way of the faders again and mess up my 8x8 grid. I'm going to put it over here, but I'm going to set it to listen to the acid synth track. Again, it's going to be in and armed, and we can hold down command if we want to multiple arm a couple of tracks. So we've got 2 armed. Hope you know that one. And we can also label these if we're kind of confused at what's going on. So this is synth, let's say rec, synth record. This one is basically master rec, right? So we could also just make sure we kind of understand what's happening there if we wish. All right, so back to just getting organized. I think I'm pretty good. We've checked over the arrangement view. We're all fine there. So verse 1 is where I'm going to kick off from, but I'm actually going to already knock out a few tracks. So let me just again check it. So I'm going to have track 7 out, definitely. And also track 8. And we'll also start with the shaker out. Okay, perfect. So my verse 2 is going to become complete in a moment, but I'm actually going to start my intro, which could be another scene, as we spoke about, but I've just taken out the tracks that I want to take out, so I'll start recording and then I'll drop those tracks in when I'm ready, and then we'll be well and truly into that verse. So here we go. Hope you enjoy, hope it all runs well, and as I said, there's nothing destructive about this. We'll simply be editing something or chopping it out or doing it again, but all happening in real time. So we'll see how we go. So I also need to remember that I can launch these nicely with my keyboard commands, which was well worth mapping those.
A couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday, and a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday, and a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday, and a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday, and a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday, and a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday, and a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday, and
All right, well, that was definitely not without some errors along the way, but as I said, they're sort of things that we can now go back and work on. For sure, there were probably some successful ideas in that take, alongside some ideas that were perhaps not so successful, but like I said, nothing destructive, nothing bad went on. Maybe if I go over and do that pass 3 or 4 times, I nail the perfect recording. I know that I can work with what I've got over into here and make some decisions and changes. But what I really like, as I said, was that interactive experience with the MIDI controller, with the song parts, with the effects racks, with the sends and returns, and just getting more involved in it like a performer and performing your track. And as I said, Ableton Live offers us that opportunity as part of the way the DAW is built. And to ignore it might be a mistake. It may not be, but it might be a mistake. And there's another whole workflow here, and that's also a beauty of Ableton Live. It kind of works the way you want it to work for you. I thought about multi-tracking this idea, which might be another stream where literally, again, I sort of trigger all of these different scenes and the loop itself, and I record all of the tracks like in big long takes, moving the MIDI controller around and adjusting all the parameters that I like. And then I come back and go into that big multi-track. And the advantage of doing that is you're interacting with all the different parts in real time. So it's like if you're playing in a group and the pianist does something and you do something on your guitar or your drum kit, you're responding to what the other tracks are doing. So rather than recording them on their own from the session view to the arrangement view, one at a time, you record them all at the same time, all jamming, interacting with everything, and then you go along in that big recording, listen back and find, there's my favorite take of the bass and of this hi-hat section, and then we start building the track from the multi-takes, the multi-instrument takes. So that's another whole workflow here. All right, so let's get over into the arrangement view. Let's hit the big stop button. Let's bring back to arrangement in focus here. The good news is as well, I kind of had a feeling for it. So again, I wasn't actually, as you probably noticed, counting bars, worrying about that. Oh, it must be 8 bars that this changes here, and 16 bars and 7 and 5. That's another great thing about this. You're reacting to your gut and instinct. So I had, during the process, 1 bar as my quantization value up here at the top next to the metronome. If we wanted, we could have set that to different values, but I'm happy to have had the option to, after 4 beats, change to something else. So I had a bit of freedom. It wasn't as much freedom as I would have if I was in quarter notes or something like that, but then you have to time a lot more where you change things. So I think 1 bar is a good starting point. And if we had 2, 4, or 8 going up, we would have had to wait for 2 bars before we could have made an interactive sort of change with the clips launching and stopping something. So keep that in mind. This quantization, again, massive part of Ableton's workflow, getting session view material to the arrangement view. That quantization has a big bearing on what is going on in the session view here, how we can move from one scene to the next, how we can stop a clip, play a clip. All of those things are working at this point in time with 1 bar quantization, meaning Ableton will flash the playhead or the stop button and align it for you that this clip plays at the same starting point as the next clip, or this scene launches when we've finished 1 bar. So I hope that makes sense, but that's really important, and it's what's going to happen here. So let's have a look. What I'm pleased with is I arrived sort of somewhere around 6 minutes 20, which is pretty good for a sort of idea of a club track. The kind of sort of music I was doing here, pretty much spot on for track length. So what I'm going to do now is get my editing head on. And I think for first things first, hello, Lucas. How's it going, mates? Hi to Lucas in the chat there. Hope you're having a great Sunday. Thanks to everybody that's joined in so far and dropped a comment. Asel early on, then Brian KM. Lovely to see him in the stream. Not sure if he's still there. It's super late for him and down there in Melbourne, Australia. Fantastic French horn player, by the way, is Brian KM. You should check out his YouTube channel and his French horn playing, which he takes all over the world, not just in Australia, down there in Melbourne. So it was great to see him in the chat. All right, so one thing I think I can do here now is take my MIDI controller view away from the display, because that's going to chew up a bit of real estate here. So let's pop into OBS and we can, let's say, hide that camera view so that we don't see that anymore. So hopefully that will be useful, because that way we'll be able to kind of see a bit more with the arrangement. We don't need to see that camera anymore. Also, we'll just, will I do that? Yes, I will. Just move a couple of things. So bear with me 1 second here. Just going to move a couple of things so I've got a little bit more workspace. Pop the MIDI controller. We might still use it, but I'll bring my keyboard back into the main position there. All right, so what I'm going to do is let's do a little bit of a playthrough from start to end. So let's have a loop and loop everything up. And I'm just going to have a listen out. If anything sort of catches my ear straight away, you might see me go in there and mute a clip, or kind of, I'll talk you through what I'm doing. Great news down here. This was my idea. So you can see here we've got the synth recording, which is actually this acid synth. And whatever I did in that acid synth while it was being recorded is down there in audio. So I think that's a really smart thing to do, and you could literally do that for all of your MIDI tracks here. They all could have been going into an audio track, and then you would have that up your sleeve, and we might find something in audio here from that acid synth take that we now might use creatively, reverse it, change it, resample it. Love that workflow personally, right? So we've also got, well, I've actually kind of dragged it up here now. So there it is there. So this is the master recording. So that's gonna have those effects moves baked in there as well, and everything that happened in the master track. And you might think, why record the master track? Well, again, that could be something that could be really interesting, because we might find some great bits in here for transition effects for the track. Remembering that is the whole track. It's parts of the track, it's effects on the track. So it's family. It can integrate nicely. So we might want a riser, we might want some kind of little cool reverse part. Well, we've kind of got options. As I said, I'm almost disappointed in myself that I didn't go and do that for the kick pattern and the bass line, etc., because it just gives you a lot of parts that we could use so creatively. So we're going to keep those. We don't need to listen to them for the moment, but we've got those two audio recordings of those two, the individual synth track and the master track. So let's have a playthrough.
And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And
it's also short emotion, just so we can kind of see what happened there.
Forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday.
So first of all, just in this first 16 bars, so let me say I'm going to loop there. I can already see I'd like to bring the kick to bar 17, so it's going to come in there. We can actually even move the MIDI clip across if we like, because we can sort of see where we might bring that in. And if this isn't, yeah, it is set to loop, so we can kind of drag that out, do a bit of housekeeping. Happy with the tom being there. With this hi-hat, probably all of this automation where I sort of brought it up as a volume ramp, I think what I probably would do, let me just check as well. Speaker on, so let's just reveal that for a second. So it doesn't come in till here. I think it probably, what I would change there is that it could come in right from the very beginning in this case. So we can kind of remove a couple of these breakpoints, right? Like so there. And what I would do is, so let's just create a lane for that, because later it probably, well, actually doesn't go out again, so we can remove that lane completely. And now with the volume or the mixer level that I adjusted, that one, I would sort of bring this down, clear this out a bit, and I would perhaps shape that a little bit so that it kind of gradually fades in, okay? So that's the idea. The brakes, there's nothing there, so that could be deleted, that little bit of false automation there. What else have we got? Acid synth doesn't come in till later, so we can just kind of housekeepingly bring that over, get rid of that MIDI clip. And similarly, the mill didn't drop in till later. Now I might change that. So let's have a listen now to the first 16 bars.
And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things.
Yeah, so I kind of feel like meld might be better right from the start, like so. I like how this shaker's coming up now. Going to move my loop over. Now maybe these breaks could come in halfway through this second section of this 16 bars. And I would probably not bring them in aggressive like that at all. So maybe on this breaks track here, now I'm actually going to go in, right, rolling up my sleeves, work my way through the track, and just start sort of making little decisions as we go along. So I'm going to pop to the audio effects folder, grab myself an auto filter here, and I'm going to bring this breaks in with a bit of a filter. So let's say filter frequency, and we also want, for me, filter device on off. Put them into separate automation lanes, and we'll have the device on here, so it can be off, because we might also switch it off somewhere else. Let's see. And I want to grab the frequency of the filter, and I do want a high pass filter, and I'm going to, let's say we copy that breakpoint a bit further along as well. That might be useful later when we open it up. And now I'm just going to sort of mute the break beat a little bit. Start with a point like down here in the 200s and see what it sounds like. Ronnie the Zombie, hello beautiful people. How are you doing, Ronnie? I hope you're good.
Taking a break from my wife. Taking a break from my wife. Forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife. Forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things.
So this looks like a bit of a mistake here as well, potentially. So what we might be able to do there is just, again, we can obviously very easily sort that out, but what we might do is bring the vocal all the way up to maybe bar 33 here. And we might just use this volume automation line that I sort of tweaked or maybe bumped by accident, and we'll just gradually fade that out to this point. And again, we might tweak that around a bit. So we might just make a couple of breakpoints and see what that sounds like.
A couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday.
And this is just the basic framework, guys. There's going to be send and returns and automation as we go along. So I'm just doing a pass, and then we'll refine a lot of these things, right? Okay, so no, don't hear the breaks at all yet. So we'll need to bring that frequency up a bit on the breaks. That's nice. Just finding the sweet spot where we just start to get it in. And we can also hear the Vox has disappeared right out there. So where does it just sort of fade? What could sound really nice on this vocal here would be automating, let's say, the reverb send that I've got, which is A. I'm using the default layout. I've added a spectral analyzer on return C, but A and B are the default reverb and delays. And so let's pop that down, and let's say that from perhaps certainly at the end here. So let's put some breakpoints in. Try that again. At the end here, I want to get really reverby.
Forgetting my son's birthday. Forgetting my son's birthday.
And actually, I just realized, sorry, I'm going to change my mind there. So I'm going to clear that envelope, remove the return reverb, because actually this track, the Vox track, in my original composition idea, I actually put an insert reverb down there of a hybrid reverb, which I can use and automate that instead. So I'm going to grab the dry wet of the hybrid reverb. It's already switched on, and I'm just going to emphasize the dry wet here and see what that sounds like. Obviously, I've made it really extreme. Probably won't be that extreme. Also, the meld synth that's been playing since the beginning, that definitely needs some automation on it. So it's kind of a bit more vibey than it is. It's currently just playing this pattern through. It sounds nice, but if we loop it right back to the very beginning, it would be nice with this to find in a bit some options here to might be just as simple as that. Perhaps we'll take already the instruments filter, great target of only using one oscillator here, and we'll kind of open that up from a closed position from the start. And again, we're just getting some nice tension out of it here. So we might open it up a bit here, see what that sounds like.
And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. A couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And
let's just check one thing there.
My wife, forgetting my son's birthday, and a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday, and
So something on, again, just on the perk track here, could be nice in that little area on the toms, shall I say. So let's just loop up this last little bit here for this transition. Now we do have two tom clips. So one of them is coming in later and it's a slightly different pattern. Let's just try, out of interest, copying a little bit of the second pattern and maybe switching to it here as an idea. Right. And again, then we might play around with the mixer delay that we have used later on in the track. So we might use a little bit of it here. So we can use our pencil tool here. Doesn't have to be as much as that. We might have one kick just before. Just smoothing out that transition. So I'll come back to those little details, but of course sometimes when I hear something as I'm going, I kind of want to react to it straight away. So I hope you don't mind that I'm doing that and you do find it beneficial and useful to see what I'm doing in Ableton Live. But these are kind of reactions that I'm doing as I start to go through this live take and now kind of smooth it out and feel my way towards what I think, you know, can be improved and changed. I also want to have a listen to this master recording down here. Let's just have a quick listen to that.
Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday.
Yeah, there's going to be some nice transitional pieces out of that I reckon I can use. So I'm definitely keen to... Let's just get this actually over to a normal audio track. So it's currently set to still to resample. There we go.
And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And
yeah, so my ideas, as I said, we'll come back to that recording of what happened on the master track, and in there we're going to be looking for some little things we can use to make like little risers and effects and little reverse sounds and things as we go along here. All right, so let's move on. We're into the second 16 bars here.
a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife.
Let's have a little kick drop out here for this transition. Okay, so the re-trigger of meld doesn't need to happen there, so we want to smooth that out. That didn't sound right. The rest of it's sounding good from my side. We can jump on to the next 16 bars. Right, so we've got a little bit of a mini break here. Now this could be interesting to try out our acid synth for the first time coming in at this point. Yeah, so let's say that we try bringing it in here. And it's also slightly off. So let's just bring that over, have a listen to that. The volume down a little bit. Right, kind of like that little drop there. Let's say that we just have a look at the kick drum track for a second. So we've got this speaker on-off area, and you can see where the kicks have kind of come out. And we do want them to sort of like, you know, those kind of mutes aren't exactly quantized there. So we do want to kind of tidy those up a little bit, make them quantized so that they are smooth sounding, not choppy. And we also could reflect, whoops, I want to grab that. We could also reflect what I'm doing there in the actual track itself. Just try and grab it, do it from down here. So all of that could be zeroed out so we can kind of visually also know that that's kind of what's going on in that little area there. Now that little move there is like the gold for me, because if we zoom in on it, it's not bang on a bar, it's in between. It was purely instinctive, and that's why we're kind of doing the live record over to here, because that move there, I can be honest, I probably wouldn't have done that if I was copying and pasting and laying it out. I would have been following, hey, this changes at this 8 bars, this 16 bars. So that right there, my friends, is a good reason for what we're trying to achieve here. So let's also say with this acid synth, I did lower the volume a bit, but we could also go into the instrument and change some of the settings. But I think I might just, again, have a good old Ableton auto filter on it, and we might just bring it in gently here with an auto filter for the starting point. So automating the device on and off here. Let's say we might turn it off again, so we'll check that out in the future. And we want the filter frequency knob, and again we're okay, or I'm okay with it being a high pass, sorry, a low pass. And so I'm going to bring it down a bit just so it's not so harsh as it comes in, the acid synth. And there's this little transition in it. And also with the shaker during that drop, it could be interesting to see what happens if we don't bring the shaker in after this drop here. Right, that could give us a chance to have the shaker out for a little bit. It's been going since the start of the track. We'll see how we feel about that in a bit. And we could also bring up the brakes a little bit more. That's this green track on the filter that we've got working away. So it opens up a little bit more here, especially because the shaker's gone. Like that, right? So we're opening up our filter that we've got on that track. that's automated, and that kind of pushes the track along nicely where that shaker comes out. The acid synth's opening up, the meld, it's got some frequency automation going on, so we might start to open it up again. Jump across to the next 16 bars. So hopefully you can feel like I can that we're sort of going somewhere with that, right? The little moves of this automation so far is opening up and we're pushing along. Maybe right at the end here again of this section here, we'll have another little kick drop, take it out. Okay, so something there caught my ear that I didn't really so let's say maybe the meld finishes there for a moment. That sounds a bit more natural to me. So what I might do here is bring my filter up earlier on the meld and bring it down a bit here. Yeah, I don't want it to re-trigger those notes. All right. Shaker back. So the acid synth changes here to another pattern, but it's kind of, again, a little bit wonky where it came in, so let's kind of fix that. Vocals change, that's nice. We've gone into this broken kick. So what I might do is automate a bit, again, the breaks in here for a bit of tension. Who else sometimes over obsesses about the numbers being even in the automation points, or maybe that's just me, my own little quirky weirdness. Shout out if you do the same as me and always try to have even numbers or something like that. Not sure how that habit happens. So hopefully you're kind of feeling that for me. This track kind of vibes for me. It's got a nice kind of vibe going along. Okay, so the first time the bass would come in there is there, but definitely for me not as harsh as that. So let's look at the speaker on. Doesn't really matter, it's only doing something kind of later on over here, so we don't really need to worry about that part. But we could either fade it in here, or does it need to come in at all at this point, or still? Because what else happened there that was new? Let's have a look. So we were going along, we had the kick come back in after that broken kick beat, which was nice. A little bit of tension there with the breakbeat going down, and it's also the second breakbeat pattern here, so there are a couple of patterns in play. Let's also give that a different color just so we can make sure. So pattern 1 is 68, 115 in here, and pattern 2 or 64, 15, and 2 semitones lower, right? So it's little things like that that are kind of adding a bit of source in the background there. So let's see if we want to keep 2, or does 2 go back to 1 on the breakbeat? Does that work? Yeah, I think I'd keep with 2 for a bit longer. And then this bass line. So the meld came back in there as well. So let's say meld doesn't come in there, but the bass does. So listen to that. That's better. Also, the synth pattern went back to the previous one, so maybe we'll keep a bit more of this pattern as well. So we keep a bit of a theme going there. Also, we've got the open hi-hat new, but I quite like that energy-wise. Also with the shaker in as well, and it's the second shaker pattern. So again, we've gone from our original shaker pattern into a newer one, which is a faster shaker. Let's have a look at the bass. Have a look what we might automate a bit just to control its level a little bit. I think I'll do the same actually. I'll just have a Ableton auto filter after it. I'll automate the device on off. And we'll take control of the low pass filter. Just so it's there, right? Just so it's nicely creeping into the arrangement from being down nice and low. And if you watched a few streams from me, you might notice when it comes to sort of loop 2 arrangement and Ableton Live, this kind of workflow, I don't use so many volume automation ramps, right? If I want to kind of bring an instrument in and out, or a hi-hat, doesn't really matter what it is, vocal, instrument, synth, I like to control it with a filter. And when you automate a filter to kind of like darken, brighten, push it in the background, fade it out, you're dealing with frequency, not amplitude, and it's a very different move. You might think it's doing the same, but it's not. It's carving away frequency and then opening the frequency back up, so you can kind of think of it also like narrow and full. It's kind of revealing more of the instrument. Volume fades have their purpose. There's some already here, like the shaker I didn't change to a filter. I left it at the intro of the track. It came in with volume turning up, like the fader I moved on in the recording. That's okay, but they don't, it's not, can I use the word sexy? It's not as sexy, volume fades. They have a purpose, but frequency fades, filters do stand up a lot more and sound more interesting in a mix and in a track. So just keep that in mind. It's a little bit of a tip. So what's our brakes doing again here? Let's keep an eye on everything as it's flowing. Again, I don't think they're milled yet. Let's, like you see up there here, have a little bit of a kick come out, which we're kind of doing here, but we'll just bring it into, and we can do it like this, to be honest. No need to use the speaker on off in that area. We can just zero out those kicks. Now, we haven't had the tom drum out yet so far, so is it an opportunity to drop it here? Give ourselves a bit of a break from it. And maybe we'll copy this theme over. We haven't used that theme again from earlier on in the track. We might have that somewhere else as well. Could be really nice here. Also here. Another good little tip there, you know, when you're making themes, if you can repeat those themes in little places, it's a great reason for making them in the first place, right? So I definitely want to drop something here, whether it's the shaker or the perk or the brakes or shaker. So if we looked at the shaker coming down here, so that is a volume automation there. Again, as I said, maybe I will change it later to a filter and filter frequency. So it's just slowly fading down with volume. So here I wanted to experiment with perhaps the tom out and maybe the shaker out. I just want to check the timing here of this because some of these have sort of come in slightly off. So we want to sort of line them up. Let's check that. When the meld comes in, whether it comes in there, let's say the vocal comes out. trying out a few different ideas here. Also realize the open hi-hat goes there as well, right? Yeah, it's a bit abrupt where it comes out, so this doesn't really completely make sense at this point in time. If it comes out, I think it probably should be at this point here. So we'll maybe just remove those breakpoints for a second. And again, let's have a look at the open hi-hat. If we're going to take it out here at the end of this little section here, we might again be reaching for another filter, or we can actually automate the filter built into the simple here. That could be an option where we can kind of control that within the instrument itself. So if we click on that, bring that down, and it's automatable. So click into breakpoints there, and it won't be as steep as that, but better. Let's also split it here so we can nice with the vocal changing over to the synth. Let's get the meld, the filter we've already got on it. Let's check the on-off. So when we automate the on-off of the filter frequency, actually I just realized it wasn't the on-off, right? So I didn't add a filter to the meld. It's using the built-in filter in the synth itself, so that's fine. We won't need to worry about on-off breakpoints. But what I would like to do is look at how I brought it in the intro, perhaps copy that theme a bit here. So we're starting to fade it in from around that level there. And we could even copy, for example, all of that and see if that kind of makes sense, but it gives us a starting point, right? So I'm going to try the meld still out there. So I do want to bring the meld back in, but I'm just going to check like when. So I'm going to go back a little bit. Let's have a little preview of how this sounds and sort of feel our way from there. I also think by this point the bass can be more open than it is. Right, so what's happening there? So we need to kind of, again, pop that back over to there, I believe, so that it's not wonky. Okay, that's another kick pattern there, right. So that also, just across a little bit. Okay, so let's refine this area a bit here. See what we've got going on. Let's have a little bit of a kick drop out there to emphasize that transition. We are bringing in a new bass line here, well, a new pattern, let's say, and the tom is returning, but it's a new pattern. The breakbeat is continuing. Perhaps we might change our mind on that in a moment. The shaker would have been coming back in there. The opener hi-hat is moving along. Let's just check that. Yep, speaker on till this point. And as its synth is there, device on, it's definitely playing through that area. Or is it? Yes, it is. Sorry, that's just the filter that we're looking at there. And the mixer, what have we got? Speaker on, literally that is all the way through, so that's fine. So there's no removal there. The vocal did come back in and the meld's trying to come back in. It's a question of just refining that a little bit. Do they both come in? Let's see. Let's listen our way through there. By the way, I hope you guys and girls are enjoying the stream and finding this beneficial, whether you're a professional or someone who's starting out in Ableton. I hope you're finding something here to take away in terms of how we started, how we arrived here and what we're doing now. This definitely needs some refinement, but this is just sort of working through, tidying up a bit about the recording and sort of just fixing things as I go along, things that inspire me, decisions that I kind of feel good to do while it's all fresh and in my mind. So let's say we maybe get the vocal out of here, where it came out, and we keep it out. And the meld, if it comes in, does it come in a bit earlier or later? So I definitely want, when the meld comes in, that it's this breakpoint here. So it's, just undo that, I want it right down. Second open hi-hat pattern here. I prefer the first still. What about with the shaker? So this should be really this color. I like it like that. Get a bit more automation on the brakes again, so there's a bit of vibe happening there. Let's maybe bring in our little theme that we've got on the tom drum. I reckon it could be a good time to get the open hi-hat out here and give ourselves a little break from that. So filtering it down. What I might do is actually have the open hi-hat playing, but just bring it down and then bring it back up again, because I think it needs to be here based on what's happening in the rest of the track. And that sound that we just heard coming in, that's on our effects track. Let's have a look down here. And let's bring up some automation of the map 8. Now, sadly, I noticed this before. One little negative with this that, I'd pick the bones of whoever kind of created it. Amazing device, the map 8, for many, many reasons. But obviously, the naming that I've done of each macro, these are originally without a name. It doesn't show up in the automation, so we just see macro 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 are automated, right? So it's a little bit of a shame. So we kind of have to figure out that 6 is the chorus, or what we might be hearing in here, or it could be something else, right? So we want to kind of find out what's going on there. So 7 is the reverb, so we're about to hear. But we're already hearing something. I know what it is. It's 5. It's the spectral. There we go. So that I like, and I kind of want to sort of like keep it going up until the end of this break. So perhaps not like what it's doing there. Let's come back and catch the rest of it. We can go back over and record this automation separately, so it's proper, making sense. That's kind of fun. Nice. So what I was just doing there, by the way, folks, is just holding down the pencil tool, so changing the mouse to the pencil tool with the letter B, and then holding Command, which allows me, if I hold Command, to be able to draw freehand with the grid off. If you don't hold down Command, you will see that it will snap to the grid. So just a little tip there. So let's put the pencil tool back off. Yeah, really nice. And then that's going to go into our main drop. So those kicks are missing. We might then have these broken kicks. Let's have a little look. I'm going to give you a sneak look. Awful clickbait thing to do, perhaps. Not really, but I'm looking at the clock. I'm aware that I don't want to take up all of my Sunday and everybody else's, but I hope you have enjoyed the ride up to this point. But my idea would be, looks like there's a part 2 to this, so to come back, finish it off, take it from this break to the end. I've only been sort of going over the recording, tidying it up a little bit, making a few decisions. I'd then go back over it again and then really sort of work at each 16 bar section, and we might add some little transition effects and things like that and bring it further to life and refine it. But the structure, I think, is starting to get there now. So I hope you agree. So let's have a little look at what it might sound like when we drop into here. Yeah, so the meld might carry on through here. And this shaker is definitely going to be working its way down towards the end here. So as a rough look at the automation we already have here, it'd be really nice to have some percussion hits in here. So the tom drum, where's our friend the tom? It's currently out. So that could be coming in little bursts. So let's say if we stretch this in, we would remove like some of these, something like this perhaps. Let's try again. So what I would probably actually do is more like this. So we kind of open up a delay as we go along, something like that, a bit more. also like to repitch some of these delays, but we'll maybe save that idea for next time. Nice. That's the idea, I think, folks. Just notice their kicks are not in here as well. The pattern is, but they're not. Okay, so maybe it was good they're not, but maybe we can have them as a teaser build. So they come in somewhere here and then go away again. Something like that. Let's have a quick preview of the end of the drop. Let's take it from the middle. Let's have a quick look at the metering. Where are we hitting on the master? So we can have a little bit of limiter on the master. Yeah, so where that comes in will need to be all aligned up, and we'll need that filter to come off that's currently switched on. But pretty happy with that progress there. So let's do, as a final little today, recap. How do we get here, and then a little playthrough up to where we are, and then we're going to save that. Well, in fact, we'll do that now so we don't have any gremlins or hiccups anywhere along the way. So file, save live, set as. Acid Tech goodness, live arrange. That is true. We can go yes, replace. We're going to do a file, collect all and save to put everything in the project folder. And so how did we get here today? We started in the session view with originally these two scenes down here, 9 and 10, bit of a rough arrangement, the loop, the original kind of track idea. We then turned those two variations, scene 1 and scene 2, they were, let's say, into verse 1, verse 2, chorus 1, bridge and a breakdown, made those little scenes, jammed around a little bit, and then you can no longer see it, but if you go back obviously at the start of the video, I then brought in my Novation Launch Control XL and essentially, launched these scenes, jammed around with the parts, volumes, taking them in and out, using some of the macros to bring in some of this automation, recorded it over into the arrangement view, and now for sort of more or less the second half of today's video, been getting stuck in here into refining then that recording and starting to polish those results. Now, already we're at the end of the break pretty much, moving into the after the drop, the bridge, and then the outro. So we're making great progress. The live recording, live arrange in Ableton Live allowed me to do things that I, get out of my comfort zone, come up with ideas that I don't normally think of. There's a lot of changes here that are not calculated at 16 and 8 bars, and there's little drops and things that, as I said, are the nuggets of gold that can come from doing that. So that's the reason to kind of use Ableton to its maximum capacity, and copy and pasting as good as that works. it also can be very static and very predictable what you might do each time, whereas this kind of can be a great way to break out of that. All right, so let's do a little bit of a playthrough, see what we've got, and then it's going to be a cheerio from me.
And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday. And a couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday.
Yep. So we know that obviously from there on, where that drop comes, that will be way more improved. Filter needs to come off. That's going to drop, smack, hit hard. As we were going along, I could hear a couple of things that I will also tweak, like the open hi-hat came in a bit too harsh, so that would be smoothed in, and there's a few bits and bobs. But in general, the way that's transpired and evolved to get from the start to there, I'm pretty happy with. And as I said, that's going to be a wrap for today. I really hope if you're new here or new to Ableton Live, or you're a professional, that you found this video beneficial and you can take away some things, tips and tricks and things you can try out in your own workflow. Fire up Ableton, get stuck in. What I would recommend doing is definitely watch a couple of videos, the previous live streams. If you haven't followed the journey to here, I will definitely link those at the end of the video here. There'll be an end card in a few hours or when I can, pointing you to the previous two videos that kind of connect the dots of the idea from scratch, and then some work I did with the MIDI controller last week and snapshots and macros that we mapped out, and then today's kind of live jam. It's been great to have some of you here with me. Thank you for commenting and saying hi. Asel, Brian KM, great to have you with me. Lucas and Ronnie the Zombie, great name there. Hello, beautiful people indeed. Well, Ronnie summed it up. I hope you've enjoyed the stream. Happy Sunday to you all. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend. I'll catch you in the next live stream. But for now, this is Heath Holmes signing out. Ciao. Take care. Thank you. Ciao.